Um, Sorry for any technical difficulties for anyone watching. Here we are. Super happy to be on Poets in Pajamas. I've watched a lot of good friends and awesome poets read here over the years. So I'm super happy to be here with you now. We're getting started a couple minutes late because I couldn't find the Go Live button, but here we are now. Hello and thanks for coming. Anyone who's here, feel free to say hello and or talk amongst yourselves in the chat. I've heard that there's a significant delay between what you will say in the chat and when I can read it. So if it sounds like I'm ignoring you for like 15 or so seconds, blame Facebook. Thanks, Sarah, for helping me with tech issues to get this started. One other logistical thing that I will do right before I get started is I'm going to drop a link in the chat as well to an access copy of the poems that I'm going to be reading. So if you want to follow along in text as I'm reading aloud, feel free to go to this Google Doc. And if you have any issues accessing the Google Doc, let me know and I can change permissions or whatnot. So hi again to anyone watching. I'm Jasmine. I'm from the Midwest, more specifically Ann Arbor, Michigan and St. Paul, Minnesota. I write poems about science and about the Monkey King, who's a figure from Chinese mythology. And when I'm not writing poems, I'm writing a dissertation at the University of Michigan and or knitting. And if any of my committee members are watching, please pretend that you didn't hear that my knitting is inversely proportional to my rate of writing. So if I'm showing you new socks that I just made, like these, I'm in the process of making socks, it probably means I'm procrastinating on the dissertation chapter, but such is life. Hi Carlina, so awesome to see you. I'm super looking forward to going on a walk later this week. Poetry is for making friends. It's my favorite thing about it. Anyway, okay, so tonight I'll be reading a couple poems from my latest chapbook, Monkey Was Here, and then close with a couple poems from a new project that I'm working on. Hi Ellen, also in the chat. Great to see you. And then I'm excited for the Q&A and chatting with some of you who are here tonight. So about the monkey poems. Sunukung, the Monkey King, is a figure from my childhood and from Chinese literature and mythology. Essentially, he's this magical monkey who was born from a stone egg and ran around on Earth getting super powerful, got bored with Earth and jumped into heaven and caused a bunch of trouble. I'll leave it there to avoid spoilers for some of the future poems. But essentially I write poems about Monkey to ask what it would look like if this magical monkey arrived in the Midwest of the USA, and what aspects of the model minority stereotype he could help smash to bits. So I'll start with a couple Monkey King poems. And this chapbook is out from Porkbelly Press. Nikki, the editor of Porkbelly, has been absolutely amazing to work with. It's a dream press. I definitely suggest you check out the rest of their catalog as well, because their books are gorgeous, hand-bound, a lot of letterpress going on. So yeah, here's some monkey poems. And one thing I should note is that Monkey has a magical power of if he plucks a hair from his body and blows on it, he can transform it into anything he wants. Monkey's hair speaks. Pluck me from your skin, Sunukung. Hold me to your lips. I will change for you. When they ask, where? I will say, China. I will forget Michigan for you, Sunukung. I will dig my placenta from underneath the pine tree. My mother buried it there. I will eat it for you, Sunukung. Pick me, Sunukung. I have already changed for you, you know. And this next poem references the scene where Monkey is learning his magic powers, and some of the other children that he's learning with egg him on into showing off, and he wakes up this great sage who's teaching them their magic and gets kicked out of magic school, but goes on to have many adventures after that. Monkey apologizes for his transformation. I'm sorry I turned into a pine tree. The other children asked me to. They wanted to see my yellow rind crack and sprout pale flesh just like theirs. No, that is a lie. I wanted to show off. Can't you see these needles in my skin? Sharp hairs as shroud. I bristle and belong. After Monkey proclaims himself great sage equal to heaven. Sunukung, you were a bad Asian. You did not sit still. You shattered Lao Tzu's crucible of 8 trigrams. You mulched your arrogance into the peach orchard. You grew 3 heads and 6 arms and beat your cudgel against the palace floor so loudly the white men on the other side of the world heard you knocking. Hello, Hunter. Great to see you. Also, hello, my mom, also in the chat. This next poem is referencing the period of Monkey's journey where he gets in trouble with the Buddha after completely trashing heaven. So the Buddha sticks him underneath a mountain for a while, but only temporarily because he escapes eventually. Monkey and I share a cell. There is a mountain over our heads, Sunukung. You can call it Buddha's hand, his 5 fingers, moss-covered fist. You can call it nature's 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, metal, or what they have taught us of our nature, the 5 temperaments, quiet, submissive, sexy but passive, tame. I am quietly building a hammer, Sunukung. I'll weight the head with the faces of cashiers in Chinatown when I can't answer in the correct language. Set the counterbalance with the expression of tourists 2 blocks outside of Chinatown when I can. Will you lend me your staff, Sunukung? I want my hammer's shaft to weigh 13,500 pounds. I want my hammer to remember the centuries it spent as a celestial nail, holding down the bed of the Milky Way, and the look in the eyes of the Dragon King of the Eastern Sea as you ripped it from the ground and his palace crumbled about his ears. So the hammer and the staff referenced in that, the Monkey King has a magic staff that he can grow and shrink depending on his whim. And it's one of the weapons he uses during his many adventures. Hello, Gail. Awesome to see you. It's so fun to connect with folks this way. Okay, so a final Monkey King poem to end this set. And it also happens to be the final poem in the collection. Jasmine puts Monkey in perspective. You survived on nothing but verdigris and iron pills for 500 years. You screwed your eyes shut and leapt through a waterfall just to find out what was on the other side. You erased your name from the book of the dead and lived for 49 days in a furnace full of holy fire. But Sunukung, I will bet you have never kissed your girlfriend goodbye on hot summer asphalt in front of your grandma, then ridden home in the family SUV, listening to the soundtrack of a Chinese opera, terrified and in love. Thanks. So that was a set of Monkey King poems. Hi, Lise. Amazing. Great to see you. Again, these poems are collected in a chapbook, Monkey Was Here, from Porkbelly Press. If you want a signed copy, I can send you one. Or you can head over to Porkbelly's website and check it out, along with the other amazing books that Nikki makes. For the next couple poems that I'll read, they're from I don't think I can call it a new project anymore because I've been working on it for over a year, but a newer project of poems, digital poems that I call digital contrapuntals that I've been working on in collaboration with a few other folks. I wish I could share screens with you all because these poems are meant to be digitally interactive, meaning there's a slider bar where you, the reader, can fade in and out the different layers of the poems. But because Facebook can't do screen sharing, if you would like to follow along in the text of the poems as I read, they are linked in the Access copy that I put in the Facebook chat in the beginning. So I'll start on this set of digital poems. This first poem, I'm a grad student. I'm always thinking about the ways that higher education institutions talk about diversity and inclusion, and then maybe don't walk their talk, per se. So this poem was written while I was thinking about that. One layer of the poem is sourced from text from a English PhD program application that I read while I was putting together my own grad school applications a few years ago. So this poem is titled Food Chain, and it begins with the source text. If you are a member of a community that has historically been underrepresented in higher education, tell us how this particular perspective adds to the value you will contribute to the diverse learning community we strive to create. If you would like, please do so here. Sign here to proclaim yourself a fellow to your fellow parasite, fed on pencil lead and promises, still and voraciously. Viciously, we raise our hands. We laugh hungry and habituated. We lick our own bones at night, an old tonguing that once sworn to salvage sharp smiles to your own case file, dedicated experience for a future of drought. Yet, don't forget a fountainhead rich in magnesium and zinc. Imagine us as poison in the wrong mouths, in the right, our marrow made mineral and rain. If you are a member, sign here to proclaim yourself of a community, a fellow to your fellow parasite that has historically been fed on pencil lead and promises, still underrepresented and voracious. Viciously, we raise our hands. In higher education, we laugh hungry and habituated. Tell us how we lick our own bones at night. This particular perspective, an old tonguing that adds to the value once sworn to salvage sharp smiles you will contribute to your own case file, dedicated to the diverse learning experience for a future community of drought. Yet, don't forget we strive to create a fountainhead rich in magnesium and zinc. If you would like, imagine us as poison in the wrong mouths. Please do so here in the right, our marrow made mineral and rain. Thanks, Carlina, for putting the access copy again in the chat. So if you couldn't tell, this form of poem is sort of a 3-layer poem where you can read layer 1 as a narrative, layer 2 as a narrative, and then you can read them both together as a third narrative. So the second poem of this style that I'm reading, one of the layers of the poem is sourced from a survey that my dad worked on that was studying U.S. population's attitude towards social distancing and other COVID prevention methods. So this poem is in dialogue with that survey and with my dad's research. You are invited. Measuring empathy, or rather, a reckoning of human capacity, asks me, us, to apprehend an intimate magnitude, bias and belief in black, bright pixel, untraceable to the right supramarginal gyrus. How many inhalations I have shared with familiar strangers, sitting knee to knee on Route 22, pushing my grandmother's cart while she buys Jialan in the supermarket, the unrelenting presence of gravity, shepherding the world's weight into lungs we did not consent to share. And yet, lungs come in pairs for a reason. From the doubled wing of your next exhalation, sweeping to the gas-shrouded harbor of mine. You are invited to participate in a study regarding social distancing during the current coronavirus situation. If you agree, the survey is completely anonymous, meaning no one will know how you answer. Your truthful answers are important to help us understand thoughts, feelings, and practices regarding social distancing. You may not directly benefit from being in this study. Others may benefit, individuals, households, and communities. You are invited to participate in a study measuring empathy, or rather, regarding social distancing during a reckoning of human capacity. The current coronavirus situation asks me, us, to apprehend an intimate magnitude. If you agree, the survey, bias and belief in black, bright pixel, is completely anonymous, untraceable to the right supramarginal gyrus, meaning no one will know how many inhalations I have shared, how you will answer with familiar strangers, sitting knee to knee on Route 22. Your truthful answers are important. Pushing my grandmother's cart while she buys Jialan in the supermarket, to help us understand the unrelenting presence of gravity, thoughts, feelings, and practices shepherding the world's weight regarding social distancing into lungs we did not consent to share. And you may not directly benefit from, yet lungs come in pairs for a reason. Being in this study, others may benefit from the doubled wing of your next exhalation, sweeping individuals, households, and communities to the gas-shrouded harbor of mine. Okay, so I think I'm on to my final poem of the evening. Due to the delay in the chat, if you want to start typing Q&A questions into the chat while I read, go for it. So I'm going to read this final poem and then look forward to chatting with you afterwards. So this poem draws on some of the research my mom did when she was a geology PhD student at the University of Michigan. And I get to use a lot of cool language on sort of science, geology, rocks, etc. So the title of this poem is Diagenesis. And this is language sourced from her work. Stratigraphic horizons, source of the relationship of matter to mineral, work, the deposition of evolution, generation and migration. Previous studies have also considered the possible relationship between space, time, and the evidence of organic matter, core samples, copper in the ground. Diagenesis. We children crumble shale in tiny fists in honor of stratigraphic horizons, mirror worlds where the source of nausea remains giardia, where microscopic invaders are not embraced, and you have never squeezed your breast and sent milk arcing playful across empty air into our open mouths. Somewhere you exist only as diagenesis, the relationship of matter to mineral, and know nothing of motherhood. Elsewhere, work means making music from the skeletons of white pines, and you have never fought on sleepless nights the deposition of your own mind. Evolution begins to tell the same stories over again, repeats generation and migration until memory becomes loose, old elastic crackling under touch. Here, previous studies have also considered the existence of carbon copies, the possible relationship between hospital space, home birth, skin time, and how quickly the body puts itself together again. For children, the evidence of the brain as original, unreliable narrator, organic matter altering itself to tell a new story. Yet, it is easy for us to find what you've mislaid. Here is your mole on our chin, cheek, hip, thigh. Here are your missing core samples, years deep in our forearms. Here is copper in the ground, your spine going green with age. Here, we will even help you dig. Thank you. Awesome. So, while I wait for a couple questions to come in through the chat, I also did want to mention that these poems really highlight the joy, I guess, of collaboration in writing, because I think for me, writing is never a solitary process. It's always a community act. But these poems highlight that for me because I'm not a computer scientist and I don't really code. So in order to actually make these poems exist, I worked with Justin Jock at the U of M library and also with my partner who's a computer scientist. And they sort of helped me write the code that animates these poems. So that was a really fun experience in terms of collaboration. And in a version of You Are Invited, the COVID poem that's forthcoming at New Delta Review, I have an audio layer that also fades in and out with the slider. And my mom, who is a musician, helped me with the recording process and lent me her tech for that. So that was another really cool collaborative moment in these poems. And finally, the text in the poems is a collaboration in and of itself. Each poem has a layer that comes from someone else, often from one of my family members. So it's been special to me to have that dialogue within the poems. So I'll just read the chat super quick. Carlina says, love the note on collaboration. How did you decide which subjects would fit the contrapuntal digital form? And what surprised or delighted you about the process of working on these poems? That's a really awesome question. Thanks, Carlina. I think the origin of these poems came because I wanted to write alongside and with some of the scientific work that my grandmother created during her career as a microbiologist. And it was sort of my first foray thinking about the intersections of poetic and scientific language and how both of those languages are simultaneously sometimes beautiful and sometimes opaque and alienating. So I think the contrapuntal form, or the urge to write with somebody else, really came from the urge to write with my grandmother, both her scientific work and then also some of her own works as a poet that she wrote towards the end of her life. And I think the surprise and delight from this really comes from other people who I've met along the way of working on these poems, and from trying to learn how to code a little bit and being both surprised and delighted when I could write something and immediately see a change in the world on my screen, which is not something that is often apparent with poems. I think that change is more subtle and slower sometimes. Yeah, I think that's a question that I'll try to continue to hold on to because I think it does animate this project as a whole as well. Sarah asks, who have you been reading lately? That is an awesome question. And it just so happens that I have Carlina's book hanging out right behind me. I've been reading Alien Myths. It is such a very, very, very good book. A joy to read. The forms in this book as well are wild and beautiful. It's been my companion for a while now, and I'm so delighted that it's out in the world. So I urge you to check that out as well. Much love to Carlina always. We're both Ann Arbor poets and grew up together as teenagers, so that's sort of how our connection began. I think that if there are any other questions lingering in the chat, I will try to get to them. Sorry if I don't see them, but I think we are approaching our time limit for the evening. So I'll give it maybe like 5 seconds for any delayed questions to pop up in the chat. But if they don't come through, it's been a delight hanging out with you. Thank you for having me. Final question of the evening goes to Ellen Stone. Opaque and alienating, she writes. I love this description of both poetry and science at times. It is amazing that you bring in your family's scientific work. Was it difficult to begin this endeavor, or was it natural? That's such an amazing question on process. I think it was difficult in some sense because I was reading through one of my grandmother's science papers, and I really could not understand what it was trying to say. I was rereading the same sentence over and over again and thinking, like, I understand English, but I do not know what this says or what this is trying to convey. And I was holding that in conversation with a lot of the dialogue about second language English speakers, about immigrants, and how, like, folks don't understand English. And I was thinking about my grandmother, an immigrant, and a scientist, and a poet, who was writing these really amazing things about bacteria, and also about her backyard, and the squirrels and animals that she fed there. So it was hard because I had to stretch myself and my own understanding of English to try to be in dialogue with her use of scientific English. But in some ways it also felt, if not natural, then it felt good in a way to be in dialogue. And it felt like getting to know her and her work in a different sense, in a different dimension. So I think that part of the process has been really amazing to me, at the same time as occasionally being super difficult in a technical sense. Thank you for that question. And I think that's probably an awesome note with which to wrap up this event. Thank you so much for coming, everyone. It was great to see all of your names popping up in the chat. Hopefully we'll get to run into some of you soon in the real world. I will go back to making my socks. Hope you all have an amazing rest of your evening.